So an estimated 2,000 acres of farmland is lost every day in the United States. So in North Korea, you get to wear the medals of the last 3 generations of your family. If you had to move to another country for an indefinite amount of time, welcome to the first episode of the Blue Residoo Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew, and joining me today, as he does every day, is your co-host, Martin. So the main story we're going to talk about today is one that's a little bit hard to believe, but according to this article from Farmland Riches, so an estimated 2,000 acres of farmland is lost every day in the United States due to urban expansion, and that could be either residential houses, neighborhoods, or commercial stuff such as shopping malls or restaurants or strip malls or anything like that. And when I first heard this story, it was a little bit hard to believe because 2,000 acres every day. So day after day, year after year, it's kind of concerning. So you have more people and less farmland. So where's the point of we're in trouble here? So, and according to this other article from Global Agricultural Productivity, more than 31 million acres have been lost to urban expansion since 1982. But in the year 2022 alone, we lost 1.9 million acres due to this urban expansion. So, when I first heard this, it's hard to believe, there's no way. But just from personal experience, so when I drive to work, I have a short route and then a long route that I can take. And every so often, I'll just take the long route for a change of scenery. And I'll be driving down a pretty major highway in left and right, new houses, new subdivision, new businesses all over the place. And from where I live to where I work, it goes through some rural areas, country areas, a lot of farmland. And it's pretty insane, just the amount of new construction and all this. So what are your opinions? Because it's off the top, it just sounds like a problem. You have more people and you have less farmland. So
yeah, it's definitely one of those cases where the math does not add up, and it's got to give at some point. And construction isn't going to stop. Development's not going to stop because that's way more lucrative than farming a row crop or farming animals. I think where it gets us in trouble is that the topic of food security for the U.S., because at that point, we will keep expanding. There's housing needs already, that's at a net negative. And so it'll create dependency. We'll have to import a lot of stuff. And then I just don't think it'll slow down. I don't see it slowing down the money that gets dumped into these developments, whether it be apartment complexes, highways, housing, and there's going to be a lot of good ground, a lot of valuable topsoil that gets lost and is underneath houses and underneath pools and stuff. And so I think the biggest concern is it's going to create a dependency, right? And then we've seen, obviously, with the last couple of years of how that supply chain can get messed up. And I think so you also have the supply chain issue side of it. And then there's the other flip side that's sort of building momentum is the animal welfare side, right? I don't know if you've really seen a lot of that, but California is passing laws of these specifically pork in California, but the factory farming sort of setup is obviously horrifying and makes you not want to eat meat. And so what they're doing now is implementing laws for animal welfare. So now that ever shrinking footprint of agriculture has to produce less because, rightfully so, I think, the pig or cow or chicken is supposed to have so many square feet, for itself. And so, the math definitely doesn't add up, and it's going to butt heads. The urbanization, the development, and the agriculture is going to butt heads. And it's not even to mention the agriculture we're losing to foreign investment. That's a whole nother weird thing, politics thing we don't have to get into now, but it's going to butt heads. I don't know. It's weird. Maybe lab grown meat or something. Just even with the conservative estimate of 2,000 acres a day, I did some math. That's 750,000 acres a year. Right. And so I think it's just going to speed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely don't have an answer to it, but it's going to cause an issue.
Yeah. So where I live in South Alabama, so they consider a fully functional farm that can sustain a family that works it. You have to have a minimum of 1,000 acres to really be able to make a profit off of your row crops, or if you have cows mixed in, you have to have 1,000 acres. So that's basically two family farms every day shut down or put out of business just because of
Yeah.
lack of land. So that's pretty insane to think about. Every day, two family farms of 1,000 acres, and you can produce a lot of. In my case, where I live, Alabama, cotton, peanuts. You can produce a lot of peanuts uh, off of 1,000 acres. So that's a lot of Snickers bars that are not going to be on the shelves in the upcoming years. But one of the articles touched on this fact too that you kind of touched on also is the fact that the land that these real estate developers and just individuals that want to live on. So if a family like an older farmer passes away and then their kids inherit the land, but they don't want to farm it, they're going to put that land up for sale. And if a
Yeah.
farmer down the road wants to purchase that land, he can't because the land is priced so high now because these realtors and these developers are coming in to buy this land. It's three or four times what they can pay to add to their farmland. So instead of Farmer Joe farming it, now Farmer Ted down the road wants to take it over, but he can't afford it even remotely, just because these developers are coming in and just stripping it and turning it into a neighborhood where they're going to sell a half acre lot for $60,000, $70,000. And you can't compete with that. So
Yeah, and
we,
and that's I think that's where sorry to cut you off. That's where the issue lies for land value is I think the value that gets tied to it is essentially sort of the development worth, not the row crop worth, to where like
oh
you said, the
sure,
farmer down the road can't afford to buy it because he's not putting apartments on it. You know what I mean? He's going to
right.
get two crops a year from it, maybe if he's lucky, and so the value just isn't there. Yeah.
Yeah, and you think about people living nowadays in the cities. The cities are becoming more dangerous. A lot of just crime and people right on top of each other. Everybody's dream is to, ooh, I want to move out to the country, which, a lot of people have different definitions of what the country is, but, everybody's dream is to, ooh, I want to
Mhm.
get a 2 or 3 acre lot out on the outskirts of town where I'm still close to town, but, I still have my privacy. And there's only so much of that land on this earth that's available. So,
Yeah.
you know, you think about it, and then, well, what's the solution? Is the solution to get the government involved? The less stuff the government's involved in, the better, I think. So,
Mhm.
but it's going to get to a point where, you go down, you drive through your state, and it's, concrete jungle is all you see, so to speak. So, I don't know what the solution is, but that's a staggering number: 2,000
Yeah.
acres a day being lost.
That's wild, and I think what also adds to that not getting the attention it deserves is most people obviously don't live on acreage or they live in a city. They can't comprehend the size of
Sure.
2,000 acres. And I was looking it up, and so that figure that I said it adds up to about 750,000 acres per year. Well, to give you an idea, New York City, not the state, but the New York City, big city, right? It's only 193,000 acres,
Yeah.
right? And
Wow.
so, and obviously that's not one of the bigger cities footprint wise, but it's a huge city. So you figure, we're losing three of those, sometimes four of those every single year. And like you're saying, there's no more being made. And I think the solution, it's much less of a solution, but just a reality is there will be more concrete jungles. I think we're going
Yeah.
to outsource we're going to outsource a lot of this stuff. South America is deforesting quickly. We got to outsource it. We're importing all of our stuff from down there. Climate's fine for it too. So I think it's going to be just this mass urbanization and concrete jungles, and we got to burn down the other jungles that are left to plant soy, and corn,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and stuff that's keeps the world going, but isn't doesn't bring a ton of value. It depends on what you tie value to, but yeah, we're just going to be knocking down a lot of biodiversity to plant corn, and then eventually, extrapolate that 100 years down the road, and you either live in a city, or if you go outside of the city, there's no more forest. It's just row crops, and and maybe the animal farming will be gone. We'll be eating lab grown meat. But
I'll pass.
yeah. So I don't know if there is a solution. You can take the the New World Order type depopulation type strategy, but I don't know if that's allowed to say. But no, that's I think just it's going to keep shrinking, and we're gonna lose. I think we're just going to keep losing really, really good topsoil. That's one thing that a lot of people don't put into this is, especially in the Southeast, there's a lot of great soil. Ukraine comes up a lot for their black soil, healthy soil. It's the grain belt or whatever over there for Europe, and I think the U.S. is losing a lot of good topsoil to houses developments.
Yeah, so what I've seen a lot, like I said, South Alabama is where I live. So you'll have a field, and down in the South, we don't have wide open, vast fields. We have a lot of trees. So you have probably a 40-acre field, a 30-acre field, a 20-acre field, just, here, there, everywhere, just scattered amongst. So the roads that go through these fields and separate them that, people travel on, what they do is they just go along the front edge of that road and then just build houses, 400 or 500 feet into that field off the road. So some of these fields are still able to be farmed. You just have less production. So, I think that's better than just going and putting a whole neighborhood in there, a subdivision. But, at a point, it's a compounding problem. We just rolled over to 8 billion people in the world. And 30 years ago, was it like 3 or 4 billion? So, we've doubled the population of the earth in just I don't know the exact number of years. Probably shouldn't quote it on here, but
sure, a fraction of the time that we've been here, for sure.
So 20 years down the road, we're going to have another 8 billion. Then we'll have 16 billion, so to speak. So there's just going to be more people. So that's more mouths. So I don't know. It's a crazy situation to think about.
And I think I would encourage people to take to grasp it is go try to see what 2,000 acres is. Find something near you. Look on a map. Go to the property appraisers or whatever to find the parcel sizes and go. Okay, look at that big high school. What's the whole property? I can see the whole thing. The whole tennis courts and football field, and you look at it, and you're going to go, oh wow, that's only 20 acres. Max. And then 2,000 of that. Like I said, every day, and it's not. And like you said, you mentioned like the 2022 numbers was staggeringly high, and I think that's just the highest tick because it's the most recent year. 2023 is going to be even more. You know what I mean? And so, and it's one of those things. You hear a lot of talk about the economy and what's going on, and sometimes construction and development slows down, but for the most part, it's tracking upwards. We're definitely not tearing down houses and parking lots and returning it back to farmland. You know what I mean? And, it's gonna butt heads. It's gonna butt heads sometime.
You gotta think the past 2 or 3 years. We've had record low interest rates. So all these builders just crazy slam houses going up left and right. Even people building subdivisions, shopping malls, strip malls, just anything. Money was cheap. You could borrow it for almost nothing. So everybody was building everything. So, that was probably a big tick of that 1.9 million that was lost. But it was insane. Yeah. And to give you a little perspective, 1 square mile consists of, I believe it's 640 acres. So if you drive for 1 mile, turn left, drive for a mile, turn left, drive for a mile, turn left, drive for a mile, make a square. That's 640 acres is 1 square mile. So, you got 3 of those about for 2,000 acres a day. So it's one of those subjects you talk about it long enough, it makes you feel depressed, like what's the solution?
That's crazy. And so let's see, we need to end our story with a positive outcome. All right. So we got
I'm ready for it.
Hope for the world. Oh, I'm coming up with it. Oh, I didn't. I thought you may have a positive outcome. No, just kidding.
Not here.
I think the positive outcome will be Well, I was going to say more genetically modified crops to produce more, but that's a touchy subject.
Well, a
More
positive would
chemical
be,
fertilizers. I don't
yeah.
know.
Or if you're a landowner and you have some prime real estate, you're in for a massive payday. So, if you're a
Yeah.
landowner,
Well, yeah.
hey, you're in
Well,
luck. But if,
eventually, so eventually the cost will catch up, and your corn and your cereal will be $20 a
sure,
box of cereal, and then maybe
yeah,
maybe at that point a farmer could turn a profit, because right now, yeah, and that doesn't even go into the fact of small farms really struggling. I think it'll keep condensing. We'll get larger farms that will hog up land,
yeah,
and sprinkle in a little, well, I'll say genetically modified crops with a little bit of warming of the planet. Maybe we get 3 grow seasons. Maybe we don't have a winter anymore. I think.
you heard it here first. Global
Yeah,
warming is not a bad thing. No, I'm kidding.
right, the positive side effects of global warming,
Sure.
and I think maybe maybe I think trade will be a big deal. I think there will be areas to where population density, and it's not worth it to urbanize as quickly as we are. And I think you'll see a lot of the U.S. spreading more democracy out there, and making
Yeah.
sure but we're not get the
Yeah.
politics of it. But I think it'll be okay. I think we'll
Yeah.
we'll genetically modify in a good way some more crops that do better in cold or hot climates, and then we'll produce more. And I don't know. I don't know what the holistic solution will look like, but it'll definitely
Yeah.
be our grandkids problem, I'll say.
Sure.
I think
Yeah.
it'll be our grandkids problem.
Yeah. Because at this moment, the U.S. is still like we produce more food than we can consume. So it's not going to be a problem tomorrow, but you probably should start thinking about it today. But yeah, well, that'll do it for that topic. Let's get into
Yeah.
a little more lighthearted stuff. So now we're going to do rapid
Yeah.
fire Q&A. So Martin doesn't know what I'm about to ask him, so in the future he'll hit me with a few questions off the cuff. So we're just gonna see what our minds go to first answer. So number one, if you had to move to another country for an indefinite amount of time this week, like you move at the end of this week, where are you going?
I'm going to one of the Nordic countries like Sweden or Norway.
Yeah,
That's where I'm headed. A lot of them are voted for some reason the world's happiest countries,
yeah, I've seen
and
those
happy's
studies. Yeah,
good. Yep, happy's good. A little bit of 23andMe, that
okay.
told me that's where I'm from.
You get
I
going
think
back
I think
to your roots.
Go, yeah, maybe okay, yeah, maybe that's why I'm attracted to it. Not that they're voted happiest, but this is primal roots pulling me back that way. Maybe I'll be a Viking or something out that way.
Okay,
But final answer, sort of. Let's go Norway. I'm going
okay,
Norway.
all right.
Yep.
You'll I think they have some of those countries have the free healthcare, like they pay a lot of taxes, so you'll get to see if that really does work out.
Yeah, we can get in that another day. But my opinion on that,
Sure.
but yeah, we'll
Yeah.
we'll see. Maybe yeah, I'll take better care of myself, and hopefully be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. If I were to think about it, I would probably choose one of those like Nordic countries. Used to, I'd probably say, like the United Kingdom or Scotland or all that, but some of those countries, they have a lot of issues nowadays with like just
Yeah,
the crazy crime and all these immigrants coming from other countries just pouring
yeah,
in.
yeah. It's
Politics
well,
aside, like it just looks like a crazy place, really. Looks
yeah, and
unstable.
who knows if it's like propaganda we're seeing, but yeah, if news reports in the
Sure.
U.S. it kind of looks
Yeah.
over there, it looks kind of it's kind of sketchy, yeah, like I said, immigration's kind of flooding in, and it's kind of anytime you get those clashes of cultures and stuff like that, it
Yeah.
always gets weird, and I'm with you. Yep, no thanks. Yeah, same to me. My first thought would be like a UK England type setup, familiarity, the old US home, go back and
Yeah.
brag
Yeah.
about the win. But yeah, no thanks either.
Yeah. I saw some of those videos from the protesting. I forget which city or country it was in, But they're saying some of those weapons that have been imported into Ukraine are showing up on the streets of some of these riots. Like there'll be videos, and you'll just hear like a burst of like automatic like AK fire just in the background,
Da, da, da,
and
da.
everybody's like, I don't think that's
Peaceful
supposed to.
protest.
I don't think that's supposed to be like this is this is the UK. Like we hadn't been having
Yeah.
gunfights on the street recently, so that's just insane. Like
Well,
some of
we
those
learned that with what was that operation to Mexico? With all the guns that
Fast and
went down there,
Furious.
and Fast and Furious. Yeah, that whole ordeal. So we definitely know that we don't keep track of guns when we send them to people.
Yeah.
But
So, like my previous statement, I want the government in the least amount of stuff as possible. Let's sell some guns to the cartel so that we can then track them and see where they end up. Like,
right, right.
you tell that to
That
10
makes sense.
people, and nine of them would say, "Are you like, you're kidding, right? Like, that
You
was a good
sure?
joke,
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but
Yeah, it's crazy.
that's a discussion for another day. So,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, next question. Have you ever been in a situation where you look at everything that's going on and think, man, I am not prepared for this? So I'll kind of let you think about it, and I'm going to give
Yeah.
you my example. I think
Okay.
the main situation that I found myself in, and it was recent. It was at the start of the 2020 pandemic. So at
Okay.
that point, I was still living at home with my parents. I just graduated college and was about to get engaged and get married. So I was living at home. So in Alabama, when Governor Cavey came on TV and was like, "Yeah, we're about to shut the state down for 2 weeks," and everybody's like, "What?"
Dang.
It's like this has never been done before. So me and my parents, we loaded up and went to the nearest grocery store, and it was like a scene out of a movie. Like in
Right.
a post-apocalyptic movie where you have the stereotypical grocery store scene, like you pull up in the parking lot and people are running, pushing buggies, and people are running inside, and like armfuls just pouring out of the door. And I remember
Yeah.
thinking to myself, like, hey, this isn't good. Like,
Yeah.
this is not going to be okay. And looking back, it wasn't as crazy. The
Sure.
food supply is, it could have possibly been. But in that moment, when the state's about to be shut down and you don't know what's around the corner, like, holy cow. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
man, I'm about to have to go in here and fight somebody for some bread.
Yeah. And I think 98% of the population's answer would be probably that to that
Sure.
and
Yeah.
I could definitely get on board with that being my answer too. Yeah, because luckily I was in the not to turn it into a pandemic talk, but I was in the military at tech school, like on a base, living full time
Yeah.
when all that started happening. So it was weird. It kind of felt like you go off base and stuff's shutting down, and you're like, oh man. But then there's this like little false sense of security. Like you go back on base, and you're like, okay, everything's fine here. It's the same way
Right.
there. A lot of stuff's closing down, but it seemed okay. Um, let's see. Let me try to think of something outside of that because I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared for that either.
Yeah.
Situation where I was not prepared for. I think I'll just take the answer. Maybe I'm just always prepared. No.
Hey, I like it.
I'll give you. Well, I'll give you an example. Actually,
Okay.
a situation. I think I may have talked to you about it and laughed about it before. I was working on an apartment, doing some remodeling, and very long story short, cut a water line without shutting the water off.
Oh
This is this
man.
weird specific example, but essentially cut
Sure.
a water line to a shower
Mm.
without turning the main water supply off, and it was this 1960s apartment complex. I have
Yeah.
no idea where the shutoffs are at all. Like
Sure.
this
Yeah.
is like the second remodel I've ever done there. I didn't have to cut off the water the other time, and so I'm sitting there inside this little cutout in a closet, and I cut the pipe, and it is literally just filling this old lady's house with water. Like I've never seen a
So much
half
water.
inch PEX tubing, release so much water.
She had some good water pressure then, I bet.
Upstairs, crazy water pressure, and just for the heart of your question, that was a recent feeling. I guess it's been over a year ago, but a recent feeling of like, oh my gosh,
Like,
I
yeah,
don't know
what do I
what to
do?
do
Yeah.
next. I don't know what
Yeah.
to do next, and yeah, I feel like I pride myself on being somewhat prepared for most things, but yeah, at that point in time, I was sitting there and I was trying to shove my hand on the pipe, right, and like almost
Sure.
cutting my hand. And it's not stopping it, you know what I mean? It's like
Right.
spreading it, you know, like it makes it feel like I'm doing better. And the
You're
ladies
like,
downstairs yelling my name, you know, like, hey, there's water pouring from the ceiling right now. Every light,
dang.
you know, fixture and vent.
Yeah, like you
And
didn't know what was going on. Like,
yeah, yeah. Like I was just doing my own thing, and this weird water starts pouring
you're
from the
like,
ceiling.
really? Where's all this water coming from?
And the funny thing is, I kid you not, it was an intrusive thought, you know, but I wasn't serious about it. But in my head, I was like, I don't know where that shutoff valve is, but you know what I do know where it's at, what's at is my truck. All right. And if I just get in my truck and I just drive as far away as I can, the problem will go away. You know what I mean? But maybe I'm sure somebody will call me. Yeah. For me, like somebody will probably call me and tell me, hey, you broke this. But in the current moment, I was like that intrusive. Just run to your truck and drive as fast and far away as you can. Long story short, I kicked that thought out, and I said, okay, I've got to take my hand off this pipe, and I've just got to run outside. I just got to run outside and start looking, you know, and yeah, ran outside. Old guy sitting in a chair smoking a cigarette, you know. I'm like, hey, you know, do you know where you know where the shutoff valves are, you know? And he gives me a point in the right direction, and I run over there, and in the middle of the grass, there's the valves. And then the other crazy thing is I didn't have like a water key. I just had a pair of pliers, and I could not get that thing turned off. Even like adrenaline, panic strength, like I could not get that thing to budge. Anyways, eventually did, you know, after a few minutes and me going, Martin, that lady's house is filling with water. Turn this thing off, you know, like you got, you know, so so there's the ultra specific example of, wow, I'm not prepared and I don't know what to do. I think that's probably the you know, the spirit of the question of like, you don't know what to do, you know, afterwards.
And that's such a terrible feeling. It's like, there's nothing I can do right now. Like I have no options, you know.
And when you're supposed to be the expert, you know, like you're the guy fixing it, you know, but here you are.
They're looking at you like, does this dude know what he's doing, you know?
So luckily we, well, and it's so funny. I come back in, I get it cut off, and I come back in there, and the lady's got the world's smallest mop, trying to like mop this stuff up into a bucket. Like it is she's just old lady, just the world's smallest. And there's an inch of water in the kitchen. There's like a solid inch of water in the kitchen, and it was to the point to where my reaction, I didn't have a shot back or anything. My reaction, I grabbed the dustpan from a broom and I was shoveling. Like it was thick enough, or thick, I guess deep enough. I could shovel it with a dustpan and throw it in a bucket. You know, throw it outside. It was crazy. Anyway, long story short, got all that cleaned up. A little bit of water damage on the ceiling. That doesn't happen with the drywall. I put some fans in some places and just painted the ceiling. And then I told a little fib, not gonna lie. I showed them that I was replacing a shower valve, and I showed them the valve, and it was super rusted, like the actual tub fill. The tub fill was rusted, and I said, I didn't lie. They just assumed. I said, yeah, look at this pipe, it broke. And they're like, dang, look how rusted that pipe is. They, you know, hey, it's all good. Maybe one day they'll hear this podcast and be like, that mother, you know.
Yeah, you're gonna get a bill for some damages, some retroactive damages.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
that's funny.
All right, well,
that's my answer.
Good answer. I enjoyed it. I hadn't heard that story before, but that was funny. I'm glad. I'm glad I wasn't in that situation, because I may have been about 15 miles down the road, like your intrusive thought.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna go find the cutoff, like crank up and just peel out of there. Yeah.
You never hear from me again. Bye.
That is hilarious. Yeah. So, all right, we'll save the rest of the questions for our next podcast. But before we go, as always, well, this is the first time we're doing it. So from here on out, we're gonna leave you guys with a random fact. So, random fact for today's episode. So, do you know all the pictures from North Korea with all those generals, and they're standing at their parades, and they have medals lined from the top of their jackets, uniforms, and they covered the jacket. You know what I'm saying? They have like,
yeah, sure.
We'll put an image up on the screen.
Looks like a parody, like a comedy or something.
There's one photo I saw where the medals, some dude's got them all on his top uniform, and they're on his pants, like going down his leg.
Oh my God.
So,
Jeez.
do you know why they have so many medals?
No, the people they've killed in
Well,
the
let me tell
state. I
you.
don't know.
So, in North Korea, you get to wear the medals of the last 3 generations of your family. So, you get to wear your medals, you get to wear
Oh,
your dad's medals, and you get to wear your grandfather's medals. And let's go back in
oh,
history a little bit. So, North Korea hasn't been in a major conflict since 1950, the Korea War.
hmm
So
yeah.
nobody's done anything to earn a real medal. So they're just coming up. Hey, well, let's just wear our dad's medals, and then eventually, well, now we got to wear our grandpa's medals.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so they're wearing 3 generations of medals on their uniform. Isn't that just insane? Like,
That is wild. And yeah, I wonder if that's how it started. They're doing some parades with these new guys, and
right?
they ain't really, the uniforms looking empty, but
Yeah.
how, they're all about photo op and that
Oh
type of
man.
stuff. And
Yeah.
so they're like, hey, we need some medals, and then, yeah, like you
Sure.
said, I bet it grew to like, hey, my dad's got some medals, man. He was, he's a young buck, but he did a little, into that Korean War. He got in it a little bit. And then,
Yeah.
they were like, hey, that's a good idea. That parade looks nice. Look at all them guys. And they're like, hey, my granddad, he was
Yeah.
day one of the
Right.
Korean. You know what I mean? Like he was with China. He's been with, he was all up in
Yeah.
it. And so they're like, hey, and then I bet they were like, hey, what about great grandpa? What was he got anything? And they're like, nah, he didn't really got much. So they're like, all right, we'll
Yeah.
cut it off.
Yeah.
We'll cut it off at 3 generations.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I did not know that. I
Yeah.
will admit, I feel like it's kind of cool.
Sure.
I'm kind
Yeah.
of into, I wish we had a little bit more familial pride, I guess, that type of stuff,
Yeah.
repping the name and legacies. And so I don't know, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think maybe I could have worn a few extra,
Okay.
some
There you
Vietnam
go.
stuff or something.
So also, the current leadership and all, I was researching it some more, and they do have some like just like gimme medals. Like you can get medals for fishing and just like off the wall, just basic stuff. Like, because
Wow.
North Korea, they're all about showmanship. Like they're going to show out. So
Yeah.
they walking down. They got, like I said, one guy's got medals going down his pant leg. Like he's got,
That may be a little much. That may be a little much.
it is way too much. The photo that I'm thinking, we'll add it again so you guys can see
Okay.
it. But so here's a darker side of that story. So in North
Oh, jeez.
Korea, if
Uh-huh.
you get sent to like a labor camp or something, three
Yeah.
generations get to get that same punishment. You go, your
Oh,
son goes,
yeah.
then your grandson goes. So
Wow.
it's a give and take. I would say
That
that's insane.
that's crazy. I guess if like the rich get richer, if you get rewarded, you'll be
Man,
really taken care of. But if you get punished by any means, it's times three. That's crazy. That's interesting. I
yeah.
think
If
we
I
sort
got
of do
sent,
that.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say if I got sent to a labor camp, I just may just forget the fact about having kids. Like, all right, this just ends with me. Like,
Yeah, I mean, my goodness, no point in passing that on.
yeah, for 2 more
We
generations.
in America we gripe about credit card debt and mortgages that are over, but I guess Korea could be worse. Or it could be worse in the world.
Yeah, so
Hey,
it's
man, fun
always
fun
yeah,
fact to add that maybe America isn't too bad of a place after all.
yeah. I would have to agree, and that sounds like a good place to end it. So we will see you guys on the next episode, and until then, we'll see you.